Commander Zixatal adjusted the viewing screen with one of his 4 arms, while his secondary eyes scanned the data flowing across his console. The sleek silver vessel times Dominion's edge times hung in the void beyond Earth's moon, its advanced sensors mapping every square kilometer of the blue-green planet below. Initial assessment complete, Commander, reported Science Officer Velnara, her crystalline voice echoing through the bridge. The planet shows abundant life signs, but preliminary scans indicate remarkably low threat levels. Zixtal's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. After 3 failed colonization attempts on hostile worlds filled with acid-spitting serpents and metal-devouring insects, finding a planet with docile wildlife felt like a gift from the cosmic void. "Elaborate on the threat assessment," he commanded, his tail swishing behind him as he moved to the central holographic display. Velnara's 6 fingers danced across her control panel, bringing up 3-dimensional models of Earth's creatures. The largest land predators appear to be these lions and tigers. While possessing impressive teeth and claws, they average only 200 kilograms in mass. Compare this to the Gorathian steel cats from our previous survey, which averaged 800 kilograms and could slice through reinforced hull plating. A series of images rotated in the hologram: elephants trudging across savannas, bears fishing in streams, wolves running through forests. Each creature was analyzed, catalogued, and deemed manageable by Galactic Empire standards. "What about the smaller creatures?" asked Tactical Officer Brendar, his warrior instincts making him suspicious of any potential threat, regardless of size. "Even more encouraging," Velnara replied, zooming in on various animals. "Small canines called dogs that have been domesticated by the native humans, felines that spend most of their time sleeping, various rodents, birds, and reptiles that pose minimal threat to our kind. The humans themselves appear to coexist peacefully with most species." Zixtal's confidence grew with each passing moment. The Empire needed this planet. Their homeworlds were overcrowded, resources stretched thin, and the Galactic Council was pressuring them to expand into previously unexplored sectors. Earth seemed perfect. Abundant water, diverse ecosystems, and apparently harmless wildlife that wouldn't require extensive extermination protocols. "There is one creature that appears in multiple human cultural references," Velnara continued, pulling up images of a black and white striped animal. "They call it a honey badger or rattle. Approximately 12 kilograms in mass. Primarily feeds on insects and small creatures. The humans seem to have some peculiar fascination with it, but our analysis shows it's simply another small omnivore." Brendar leaned forward, studying the creature. "It looks like a modified Zentari slug with legs, hardly worth noting." The bridge crew chuckled at the comparison. Zentari slugs were considered among the most pathetic creatures in the galaxy. Slow, weak, and useful only as emergency food rations. "Begin Phase 1 reconnaissance," Zixtal ordered. "Deploy stealth drones to major population centers. We need detailed intelligence on human military capabilities and infrastructure weaknesses before the main fleet arrives." 3 days passed as the Times Dominion's edge times gathered intelligence. The drones recorded human cities, military installations, and daily life with meticulous detail. Everything confirmed their initial assessment. Earth would be an easy conquest. Dr. Kilrath, the expedition's xenobiologist, had become particularly interested in Earth's ecosystems. His fascination wasn't tactical but academic. The planet showed an unusual diversity of life forms that had somehow avoided destroying each other in evolutionary warfare. "Commander," Dr. Kilrath approached Zixtal as he reviewed invasion plans. "I request permission to conduct direct biological sampling. Our current data, while extensive, lacks the detailed chemical and genetic analysis necessary for proper colonization planning." Zixtal barely looked up from his tactical displays. "Approved. Take a small team and gather whatever samples you need. Avoid human detection, but otherwise, proceed as necessary." 6 hours later, Dr. Kilrath piloted a cloaked shuttle through Earth's atmosphere, accompanied by research assistant Hillnex and security specialist Morkan. They landed in a remote area of what human maps labeled as the Kalahari Desert. Far from civilization, but rich in the diverse wildlife they needed to study. The team established a temporary research station behind a cluster of large rocks, their equipment humming quietly as it began analyzing air, soil, and water samples. The desert seemed peaceful, almost serene compared to the violent ecosystems they'd encountered on other worlds. Fascinating, Dr. Kilrath murmured as he examined microscopic organisms through his analyzer. The bacterial life here is aggressive, but not lethally so. It's as if everything has reached some sort of biological equilibrium. Hillnex set up containment units for larger specimens, while Morkan established a perimeter sensor grid. Their first day yielded samples of various insects, small reptiles, and plant life. All remarkably easy to capture and contain. On the second day, they encountered their first mammalian specimens, a group of small, furry creatures that the database identified as meerkats approached their camp with curious chirping sounds. Incredible, Hillnex whispered, extending a gentle appendage toward one of the creatures. They show no fear response at all. The meerkat sniffed at the alien appendage, then continued foraging for insects, completely unbothered by the presence of extraterrestrial visitors. Dr. Kilrath carefully collected genetic samples and biological data, marveling at the creature's trusting nature. The humans are correct, he noted in his research log. This planet's wildlife lacks the aggressive survival instincts we see elsewhere in the galaxy. Evolution here seems to have favored cooperation over conflict. Their third day brought an encounter with larger specimens. A small herd of springboks bounded past their camp, pausing only briefly to observe the strange visitors before continuing their migration. Even when Morkan accidentally activated his weapons targeting system, causing a bright red beam to sweep across the ground, the animals showed only mild curiosity rather than the blind panic such displays usually triggered. This will make colonization significantly easier, Morkan reported to the ship. No need for extensive wildlife suppression protocols. Most species here seem naturally inclined to avoid confrontation. Dr. Kilrath was beginning to compile his preliminary report when Hillnex's excited voice interrupted his work. "Doctor, you need to see this." The xenobiologist hurried to where his assistant was monitoring the perimeter sensors. The display showed a small, low-slung creature approaching their camp with purposeful determination. Database match. Honey badger, Hillnex reported. Mass approximately 11.8 kilograms. Behavior pattern suggests it's investigating our camp. Mine. Rhine. R. Mine. Rhine. Mine. 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 Dr. Kilrath adjusted his viewing scope to observe the creature directly. It was smaller than he'd expected, with short legs, a stocky build, and distinctive black and white coloring. The honey badger moved with a confident gait that seemed almost comical given its size. "Perfect," Dr. Kilrath declared. "We need samples from this species anyway. The human's cultural fixation on it suggests some kind of symbolic importance. Understanding their relationship with this creature could provide valuable insight into human psychology." Morkan checked his containment equipment. "Standard capture protocol? Sea law? Way? Of course. It's barely larger than the meerkats we processed yesterday." The honey badger had now reached the edge of their camp and was methodically investigating their equipment. It sniffed at the base of their communication array, pawed at a sample container, and then sat back on its haunches as if considering its next move. "Activating containment field," Morkan announced, pressing a series of controls on his portable restraint device. A shimmering blue energy barrier materialized around the honey badger, forming a perfect cube approximately 2 meters on each side. The creature looked up at the glowing walls with what Dr. Kilrath could only describe as mild interest rather than alarm. "Excellent. Now we can conduct a proper examination without." The honey badger stood up, walked to the nearest wall of the containment field, and bit it. The energy barrier sparked, fluctuated, and then exploded in a shower of blue sparks that sent all three researchers diving for cover. When they cautiously raised their heads, the honey badger was sitting calmly in the center of the smoking equipment debris, apparently unharmed. "What just happened?" Heelnex whispered. Dr. Kielroth stared at his readings in disbelief. The containment field registered a power overload, but that's impossible. The field generates 50,000 units of energy, enough to contain a Vraxian thunder beast. The honey badger, seemingly satisfied with its work, began investigating the scattered remains of their equipment. It picked up a sensor probe in its teeth, shook it vigorously, and then tossed it aside before moving on to examine a sample storage unit. "Perhaps it was a equipment malfunction," Morcon suggested, though his voice lacked conviction. "I'll activate the backup restraint system." The second containment field materialized around the honey badger with a deeper blue glow, indicating its enhanced power output. This time, the creature didn't even pause in its examination of their equipment. It simply reached out with one paw and touched the energy barrier. The field collapsed instantly. "That's not possible," Dr. Kielroth breathed, his scientific understanding of the universe suddenly feeling very fragile. The honey badger had now located their food supplies. Emergency rations stored in containers designed to withstand the vacuum of space and the crushing pressure of gas giant atmospheres. The creature examined the first container briefly, then proceeded to tear it open like it was made of paper. "Commander," Morcon spoke urgently into his communicator, "we have a situation at the research site." Zixatal's voice crackled through the device. "Report. The honey badger specimen has compromised our containment systems." There was a long pause. "Did you just tell me that a 12-kilogram creature defeated military-grade restraint fields?" Morcon watched helplessly as the honey badger finished consuming their emergency rations and began investigating their shelter components. "Affirmative, Commander, and it's currently deconstructing our base camp." Another pause, longer this time. "Are you certain you're observing the correct species?" Dr. Kielroth grabbed the communicator. "Commander, I've been a xenobiologist for 40 years. I've studied creatures that could crush battle cruisers with their bare appendages. This is something different. This creature isn't operating according to any known biological or physical laws." On the display, the honey badger had somehow managed to pry open a sealed equipment case that required specialized tools to access. It pulled out a high-energy plasma torch, examined it briefly, and then began using it to open other containers. Somehow operating the device, despite lacking opposable thumbs or any apparent understanding of alien technology. "This is a joke." Zixtal's voice carried a note of strained patience. "You're telling me that our invasion plans are being threatened by something that weighs less than a standard plasma rifle?" The honey badger had now discovered their communication equipment. It studied the array for a moment, then began systematically dismantling it with the efficiency of a trained technician. Within minutes, contact with the Times Dominion's edge times was lost. "We need to retreat," Heelnex whispered, backing away from the creature. "This isn't natural." Dr. Kielroth found himself agreeing, though everything he understood about biology screamed that he was being ridiculous. The honey badger was just an animal, a small, ordinary earth creature that should have been cowering in fear or fleeing from their obviously superior technology. Instead, it had apparently decided that their research station was its new territory and was proceeding to remodel it according to its own specifications. Emergency extraction, Morcon decided, activating the beacon that would signal their shuttle for immediate pickup. "We'll observe from orbit, and..." The honey badger looked up at the sound of the beacon, fixed them with a steady stare that seemed almost judgmental, and then returned to its work. It had somehow located their backup power cells and was currently testing their structural integrity by dropping them from various heights. The shuttle arrived 20 minutes later, its pilot clearly confused by the situation he found. The research team huddled in the craft as it lifted off, leaving behind thousands of credits worth of equipment now scattered across the desert floor. Below them, the honey badger sat among the wreckage like a small, furry emperor surveying its domain. "Command is not going to believe this report," Hillnex muttered. Dr. Kilrath stared down at the creature through the shuttle's viewport, his worldview fundamentally shaken. "I'm not sure I believe it myself." As they ascended toward the Times Dominion's edge asterisk, the honey badger appeared to watch their departure with the same calm interest it had shown their arrival. Then it wandered off into the desert, leaving behind the scattered remains of the most advanced reconnaissance equipment in the Galactic Empire. The emergency meeting aboard the Times Dominion's Edge Times had been going for 3 hours, and Commander Zeekstal felt his patience wearing thin. The holographic display showed the destroyed research station, its scattered components spread across the desert like the remains of a child's abandoned toy. "Let me understand this correctly," Zeekstal said, his forearms crossed in a gesture that universally conveyed skepticism throughout the galaxy. A single creature, weighing 12 kilograms, destroyed military-grade equipment designed to withstand assault from creatures 1,000 times its size. Dr. Kilrath shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Commander, I know how it sounds, but it sounds insane," interrupted Fleet Admiral Kreshtar via holocommunicator from the main invasion fleet still 3 days out. "I've received reports of delays because you've encountered dangerous wildlife, and now I discover the dangerous wildlife is something smaller than my lunch." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Admiral Kreshtar was known for his massive appetite and correspondingly large meals. Science Officer Velnara cleared her throat. "Sir, I've been analyzing the wreckage patterns. The damage is consistent with both intelligent planning and overwhelming force application. Whatever did this understood our technology well enough to disable it systematically." Or, Tactical Officer Brendar interjected, "Our equipment malfunctioned, and we're creating elaborate explanations to avoid admitting failure." Dr. Kilrath activated his personal recorder. "Then explain this." The holographic display filled with images captured by the research team's personal recording devices. The honey badger moved through the footage like a small, unstoppable force of nature. Equipment that should have been indestructible crumpled like paper in its jaws. Energy barriers that could contain plasma explosions simply stopped working when the creature touched them. "Computer," Zeekstal called out. "Analysis of footage authenticity. Footage appears genuine, Commander. No evidence of alteration or manipulation detected." The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle humming of ship systems. Fleet Admiral Kreshtar's image flickered as he leaned forward to examine the recordings more closely. "This is unprecedented," he finally admitted. "I've conquered 17 star systems and encountered everything from living gas clouds to creatures made of pure energy. I've never seen anything simply ignore. Our containment technology." Dr. Kilrath nodded grimly. "That's what troubles me, Admiral. This creature isn't defeating our systems through superior force or advanced technology. It's as if our methods simply don't apply to it." "Superstition," Brendar muttered, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. "Perhaps," Dr. Kilrath agreed, "but I suggest we proceed with extreme caution until we understand what we're dealing with." Commander Zeekstal studied the tactical implications. "Very well. We'll establish a new research outpost in a different region. Double the security protocols, triple the equipment redundancy. If this creature is truly as dangerous as you suggest, we need to understand its capabilities before the main fleet arrives." 3 days later, Research Team Beta established operations in what human maps designated as the African Savannah, approximately 800 kilometers from the previous site. Lieutenant Kex Mora led this expedition, bringing twice the personnel and 3 times the equipment of the original team. "No chances this time," Kex Mora announced as his team deployed their enhanced perimeter defenses. Full military protocols, redundant systems, and constant communication with the ship. The new camp resembled a fortress more than a research station. Energy shields surrounded the entire perimeter. Automated defense turrets tracked potential threats, and backup communication arrays ensured constant contact with the Time's Dominion's Edge asterisk. For 2 days, operations proceeded smoothly. The team collected samples from various species, zebras, gazelles, lions, and numerous smaller creatures, all of which behaved exactly as their initial assessment had predicted: docile, easily contained, and utterly non-threatening to beings with advanced technology. See? Research specialist Tyle Neth commented as he successfully restrained a full-grown lion using standard containment protocols. Dr. Kilrath's team obviously encountered some kind of equipment anomaly. These creatures are exactly what our scans indicated. Lieutenant Kex Mora remained cautious but began to relax as their operations continued without incident. The honey badger encounter was becoming something of a joke among the crew, a cautionary tale about the importance of proper equipment maintenance rather than a genuine threat assessment. That changed on the third morning when sensor operator Jixvale detected an approaching life sign. Single organism, mass approximately 12 kilograms, approaching from the southeast at a steady pace, he reported. The research team paused their activities. According to their database, only one creature in this region matched those specifications. Honey badger, Kex Mora confirmed, studying the sensor readings. Perfect. We'll demonstrate proper containment procedures and put this foolish panic to rest. The creature appeared at the edge of their sensor range exactly as predicted. A small, stocky animal, moving with purposeful determination toward their camp. Kex Mora activated all defensive systems, bringing online every piece of military technology they deployed. Full documentation, he ordered. Command needs to see that proper procedure can handle any Earth creature, regardless of size. The honey badger approached the perimeter fence, a barrier of pure energy capable of stopping an armored assault vehicle. It studied the shimmering wall for a moment, then reached out with one paw and touched it. The fence disappeared. What just happened? Tyle Neth whispered, staring at his control panel. Temporary malfunction, Kex Mora replied, though his voice carried less certainty than his words. Activate secondary barriers. 3 more energy walls materialized around the honey badger in concentric circles, each one more powerful than the last. The creature glanced around at the glowing barriers with what appeared to be mild annoyance, then began walking toward the research camp. All 3 barriers collapsed the moment the honey badger made contact with them. This isn't possible. Jixvale breathed, frantically checking his readings. The power systems are functioning normally. The barriers should be irrelevant to that thing, apparently, Kex Mora interrupted, finally beginning to understand what Dr. Kilrath's team had faced. The honey badger had now reached their outer equipment perimeter and was examining their mobile laboratory unit. Unlike the previous encounter, this time, the research team was prepared to observe its methods more carefully. The creature didn't attack the equipment with brute force. Instead, it appeared to study each device briefly, before somehow disabling it. Computer terminals went dark, with a casual touch. Sealed sample containers opened themselves when the honey badger approached. Even their backup power cores seemed to drain their energy simply by being in the creature's presence. Command? Kex Mora spoke urgently into his communicator. We are confirming Dr. Kilrath's report. The honey badger it's doing something that shouldn't be possible. Zixtal's voice crackled through the device. Explain shouldn't be possible, Lieutenant. Sir, it's not breaking our equipment or overwhelming our systems. It's just making them stop working. The honey badger had discovered their food supplies and was methodically working its way through containers designed to feed a squad of soldiers for a month. Despite its relatively small size, it seemed capable of consuming vastly more than should have been physically possible. Sir, Tealneth added, his voice shaking, I think it's looking at us. Indeed. The honey badger had paused in its meal and was regarding the research team with the same calm assessment they'd observed in the previous footage. Its dark eyes seemed to convey a message that transcended species barriers. Asterisk, you're in my territory now. Asterisk. Retreat to emergency positions, Kex Mora ordered, though he wasn't sure what constituted a safe distance from a creature that seemed to operate outside the normal rules of physics. The honey badger returned to its meal. apparently content to ignore the researchers as long as they didn't interfere with its activities. Within an hour, it had consumed or destroyed every piece of equipment in the outer perimeter, and was beginning to work on the structures themselves. How is it doing that? Jixvale wondered aloud, as they watched the creature somehow dismantle their prefabricated shelter units, without any apparent tools. I don't think it matters how, Kexmora replied, calling for emergency extraction. What matters is that our invasion plans just became significantly more complicated. The shuttle pickup went smoothly, though the honey badger paused in its deconstruction work to watch them leave. As their craft ascended toward orbit, Kexmora couldn't shake the feeling that the creature was memorizing their departure vector. Back aboard the Times Dominion's Edge Asterisk, the emergency command meeting included Fleet Admiral Kreshtar's direct participation via quantum communicator. The Admiral's massive form filled the holographic display, his expression grim as he reviewed both incident reports. 2 research teams, he rumbled, destroyed by the same creature. A creature our initial surveys classified as harmless. Commander Zixatal pulled up the comparative analysis. Sir, our scouts have surveyed over 3,000 worlds. Our threat assessment protocols have never failed this dramatically. Grow. Perhaps, Doctor, Keelrath suggested hesitantly. We need to reconsider our understanding of this planet's wildlife. The honey badger may be representative of something we don't yet comprehend. Science Officer Velnara had been unusually quiet during the meeting. Finally, she spoke up. I've been reviewing human cultural references to this creature. They have expressions like, honey badger doesn't care, and honey badger doesn't give a damn. Initially, I dismissed these as primitive anthropomorphism. But now, Admiral Kresh, Tar prompted, now I think they might be more accurate than we realized. What if this creature literally doesn't care about our technology? What if it operates according to rules we don't understand? Tactical Officer Brendar scoffed. You're suggesting that an animal's attitude affects the laws of physics? I'm suggesting, Velnara replied carefully, that we may have encountered something that operates according to different laws of physics than we're familiar with. The suggestion hung in the air like a gravitational anomaly, warping everyone's understanding of their situation. Fleet Admiral Kreshtar was silent for a long moment. Dr. Keelrath, in your professional opinion, how many of these creatures exist on Earth? The xenobiologist checked his database. Current population estimates suggest approximately 100,000 to 200,000 honey badgers across the African continent, with smaller populations in Asia. Another long silence. Commander Zixtal, the Admiral finally said, I want you to locate and observe other honey badgers. Determine if this behavior is species-wide or if we've encountered exceptional individuals. The main fleet will maintain current position until we understand what we're dealing with. Understood, Admiral, Zixtal replied, though privately he wondered if any amount of understanding would make the invasion of Earth feasible. As the meeting dispersed, Dr. Keelrath remained behind to study the accumulated data. 40 years of xenobiology had taught him to expect the unexpected. But Earth's wildlife was challenging everything he thought he knew about life in the universe. The honey badger wasn't just dangerous, it was impossible. And if their surveys had missed something this significant about one species, what else had they failed to understand about this deceptively peaceful planet? Somewhere in the African wilderness, a honey badger paused in its evening hunt to look up at the stars. For just a moment, its eyes seemed to reflect not just starlight, but something deeper. An ancient knowledge that predated both human civilization and galactic empires. Then it returned to its hunt, leaving the cosmic implications to sort themselves out. After all, honey badger didn't care about the broader universe. The universe, however, was beginning to care very much about honey badger. The invasion of Earth was about to become significantly more complicated. The emergency session of the Galactic High Command had been called within hours of Fleet Admiral Kreshtar's report. Representatives from 12 star systems gathered via quantum link, their various forms flickering in holographic display around the central council chamber of the Times Dominion's Edge asterisk. Let me ensure I understand this correctly, Chancellor Vorthok spoke, his ancient voice carrying the weight of 1,000 conquered worlds. The Empire's most experienced invasion fleet has been stalled by a creature smaller than a standard waste disposal unit. Fleet Admiral Kreshtar's massive frame tensed at the implied criticism. Chancellor, with respect, you haven't seen the recordings. This isn't a matter of military competence. We're dealing with something that appears to operate outside known physical laws. Counselor Hex Rania of the Fourth Spiral leaned forward, her serpentine form coiling with skepticism. Perhaps the humans have developed some form of biological warfare, enhanced creatures designed to appear harmless while possessing hidden capabilities. Dr. Keelroth activated his data display. Negative, Counselor. Our genetic analysis shows the honey badger specimens are completely natural. No signs of artificial enhancement, technological implants, or biological modification. They're exactly what they appear to be. Ordinary Earth mammals. Ordinary mammals don't disable military-grade containment systems by touching them, pointed out General Clax Thor of the Outer Rim Forces. Which brings us to the central question, Chancellor Vorthak declared. Are we dealing with a planetary defense system we don't understand? Or have we simply encountered a species that doesn't conform to our biological models? Commander Zeekstal had been dreading this moment, but he knew his duty. Honorable Council, I believe the situation is more complex than either explanation suggests. We've conducted additional surveillance over the past week, and our findings are troubling. The holographic display filled with new footage from reconnaissance drones deployed across Africa. Dozens of honey badgers moved through their natural habitats, living seemingly normal lives. Hunting, foraging, raising young, and interacting with other species. Standard behavior patterns, Dr. Keelroth narrated. They eat insects, small mammals, and occasionally raid beehives for honey. They dig burrows, mark territory, and avoid larger predators. By every measure, they're ordinary animals. Until they encounter our technology, Commander Zeekstal added grimly. The footage shifted to show various honey badgers accidentally encountering hidden observation equipment. In every case, the result was the same. Advanced sensors simply stopped functioning. Camouflaged cameras went dark. Even passive monitoring devices seemed to drain their power and cease operations whenever a honey badger wandered too close. It's not aggression, Velnara explained to the Council. They're not attacking our equipment. They often seem barely aware of it. But their mere presence appears to create some kind of technological null field. Counselor Hex Rania's eyes narrowed. You're suggesting these creatures emit some form of suppression energy? No readings of any energy emissions, Dr. Keelroth reported. No unusual electromagnetic signatures. No exotic particle interactions. No detectable fields of any kind. From a scientific standpoint, nothing should be happening. Chancellor Vorthok was quiet for a long moment, processing implications that stretched far beyond a single invasion. Dr. Keelroth, in your assessment, is this phenomenon limited to honey badgers? The xenobiologist hesitated. We're still investigating, but preliminary observations suggest other Earth species may exhibit similar traits. Explain. We've observed domestic cats that somehow escape from sealed rooms without opening any doors. Dogs that locate hidden objects, despite having no possible way to know where they were placed. Birds that navigate through electronic jamming fields as if they didn't exist. General Clax Thor leaned forward aggressively. You're talking about magic. I'm talking about phenomena we don't understand. Dr. Keelroth replied carefully. The humans seem to accept these behaviors as normal. They have expressions like, cats always land on their feet, and dogs always find their way home. We initially dismissed these as primitive superstitions. But now you think they represent accurate observations of impossible behaviors, Chancellor Vorthok finished. Yes, sir. The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled representatives. if Earth's wildlife operated according to unknown principles. The entire foundation of their expansion strategy was compromised. Fleet Admiral Kreshtar spoke into the silence. There's more, Chancellor. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected similar anomalies throughout this solar system. Elaborate. Navigation systems experience intermittent failures when passing through certain regions. Sensor arrays report contradictory readings from the same locations. Even our quantum communicators sometimes receive responses to messages we haven't sent yet. Commander Zeextal added, "We initially attributed these incidents to solar interference or gravitational anomalies, but the pattern suggests something else entirely. The entire system appears to be influenced by the same principles affecting the honey badgers." Dr. Kielroth concluded, "As if reality itself operates differently here." End quote. The entire system's affected 10. When the Felevant catacly done, the smarter. End quote. Chancellor Vorthok's ancient mind wrestled with concepts that challenged everything the Empire understood about the universe. Dr. Kielroth, what is your professional recommendation regarding the invasion of Earth? Kill. 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 The xenobiologist looked around the council chamber, knowing his next words would either end his career or change the course of galactic history. I recommend immediate withdrawal and reclassification of this system as a restricted zone. The chamber erupted in protests from military representatives, but Chancellor Vorthok raised a appendage for silence. Your reasoning? Honorable Chancellor, we've built our empire on superior technology and understanding of natural laws. Earth appears to operate according to different natural laws, ones we don't understand, and possibly cannot understand. Attempting to conquer a world where our fundamental advantages don't apply is not just dangerous, it's potentially catastrophic. General Klaxthor's warrior instincts rebelled against the suggestion. We're talking about abandoning an entire system because of small animals. No, Doctor, Kielroth replied firmly. We're talking about avoiding a conflict with forces we can't comprehend, led by a species that has somehow learned to coexist with those forces. Commander Zixistal activated a new display showing Earth's human population centers. The humans have been living on this world for millennia. They've developed alongside these impossible creatures, learned to work with them rather than against them. Their domesticated animals display the same reality-defying traits as their wild counterparts. What are you suggesting? Asked Counselor Hexrania. I'm suggesting the humans may not be as primitive as we assumed. Any species that can successfully share a planet with creatures like honey badgers has either developed remarkable adaptability or possesses understanding we lack entirely. Dr. Kielroth pulled up footage of human-animal interactions. Farmers working with dogs that seemed to anticipate their needs. Researchers studying animals that somehow avoided every trap and monitoring device. Families living peacefully with cats that routinely appeared in impossible locations. Look at their behavior patterns, he pointed out. They don't seem surprised by these impossibilities. They've incorporated them into their daily lives as if they're completely normal. Perhaps, Chancellor Vorthok mused, because for them, they are normal. The weight of that observation settled over the council. If Earth's impossible wildlife was simply the baseline reality for this world, then humanity had been shaped by evolutionary pressures the Empire couldn't even imagine. Fleet Admiral Kreshtar studied the tactical implications. A species that evolved alongside reality-defying creatures would have developed survival traits we can't predict or counter. Their military capabilities, social structures, even their way of thinking would be fundamentally different from anything we've encountered. And if we can't understand their animals, Velnara added quietly, how can we hope to understand them? Chancellor Vorthok made his decision. Fleet Admiral, initiate withdrawal protocols. All Empire vessels are to maintain minimum safe distance from this solar system, pending further study. Sir, General Klaxthor protested. We're setting a dangerous precedent. If we retreat from one world, because of unusual wildlife, we're exercising wisdom, the Chancellor interrupted. The Empire has survived by choosing battles we can win. This is not such a battle. N for 3. We have not sent. As the council session ended and holographic representatives flickered out of existence, Commander Zixatal found himself staring at the view screen, showing Earth floating peacefully in the void. Somewhere on that blue-green world, honey badgers were going about their daily lives, completely unaware that they had just forced the retreat of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Dr. Kilroth joined him at the observation window. Do you think we made the right decision? I think we made the only rational decision available to us, Zixatal replied. Though I have to admit, I'm curious about what else we might have discovered if we'd stayed. Perhaps it's better not to know. Some mysteries are too dangerous to solve. 3 days later, the Empire fleet began its journey toward the outer edge of the solar system, leaving behind only automated monitoring stations to observe from a respectful distance. The invasion of Earth was officially postponed indefinitely, the first time in Empire history that an operation had been cancelled due to incomprehensible wildlife. Back on Earth, in a quiet corner of the African savanna, a honey badger paused in its evening hunt to look up at the retreating alien vessels. For just a moment, something that might have been satisfaction flickered in its dark eyes. Then it returned to digging for grubs, leaving the cosmic implications to sort themselves out. After all, the universe was full of strange visitors who thought they understood how things worked. Most of them learned better. Eventually, the honey badger didn't particularly care whether they learned or not. It had grubs to catch and territory to patrol. But it was mildly pleased that these particular visitors had been smart enough to leave before finding out what happened to things that didn't respect the natural order. In the depths of space, Fleet Admiral Kreshtar filed his final report on the Earth reconnaissance mission. Future historians would mark it as the beginning of a new era in galactic relations. One based on respect for the unknown, rather than confidence in superior technology. The humans would continue their peaceful existence, unaware that they shared their world with the most effective planetary defense system the galaxy had ever encountered. Their honey badgers, cats, dogs, and countless other impossible creatures would continue their daily lives, casually violating the laws of physics and maintaining the delicate balance that made Earth the one world even the Empire dared not conquer. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, other advanced civilizations would receive classified reports about a small blue planet, where reality worked differently, where tiny creatures commanded powers that dwarfed stellar fleets, and where wisdom sometimes meant knowing when not to interfere. Earth would remain free, protected not by weapons or technology, but by the simple fact that Honey Badger didn't care about galactic empires. And galactic empires, as it turned out, cared very much about Honey Badger.